Well, hello and welcome to episode 3 of Talks with the Elders. So today's episode, we are exploring a way to bring back dignity and respect to spirituality and spiritual practices. Um, Spirituality and spiritual practices have been around, I would say, since the dawn of time. We have always had ways where we express ourselves through the spiritual, we find ways to connect with the divine. And in this day and age, we tend to have this overshadowing around spirituality and spiritual practices where, it's either dismissed or it's seen as woo. It's lost a lot of its dignity and respect. If we were thousands of years ago, shamans, medicine people, your Reiki practitioners, they would have been a respected person in the village. In this day and age, are they real? Are they pseudo spiritual? So we have quite a deep conversation that we're going to get into today. Joining me is Anna Seraphin. Anna has spent more than 20 years supporting practitioners, healers, and those newly awakened. That part definitely excites me. Her work draws on shamanic practice, metaphysical insights, and her modality, integrated soul healing, shaped by a lifelong intuitive lineage and years immersed in Buddhist, shamanic, and Hindu cultures. Anna's focus is very much on coherence, clarity, and sovereignty, and this is what's going to bring a very steady voice to today's topic. Anna comes from a very diverse background. She's worked with different lineages. She's got an extensive history behind her, and the way that Anna carries herself in the way that I've interacted with her on social media so far, um, she's very grounded in the practitioner that she is. She's very real in the practitioner that she is, and she takes her craft very seriously. I mean, what got me attracted to Anna in the first place was her post saying like, "What I do is not woo," and I was like, "Oh yes, who's this person? I want to know what she's all about." And Anna, thank you for being here with me today to have this conversation. I think it's a very well needed conversation, not just for practitioners, but for the public as a whole. So let's start with dignity and respect in spiritual work. And what does that look like for you? What does respect and dignity inside spirituality and spiritual work, what does that look like for you?
Mm. Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. And I'm really honored that you asked me to come on and talk about this. It's interesting because as you were asking this question, the first thing that immediately came to me was how we must first have that respect and dignity for the work ourselves. We have to, that's where it starts. So,
Hmm.
do we respect what we do?
Absolutely.
Do
I
we
think
treat it
that
with respect?
yes, yes, yes. Hmm.
And do we treat other practitioners with dignity and so on, right? And
Hmm.
respect? Because one of the things that I've noticed in, well, forever, really, but particularly in the last maybe 5 years,
Hmm.
is like a tendency for people to borrow other people's work without
Yes.
sourcing them, right? Now,
Mm.
uh, and I'm all for the work that we channel, the information that comes to us, the modalities that come through us are here to be shared with the world, of course, right? Wisdom and knowledge, it's not meant to be, you know, kept away from other people. It's here to be shared. But
Hmm.
I think it's really important for us to give credit to the source of things. So, for example, when I'm working with people, I'm like pulling from all these different, traditions, places, pieces that came to me. Someone's sending me a prayer, somebody sending me a process to do. And sometimes I don't know where it comes from, but I always tell my client or tell whoever I'm speaking to, oh, this comes from, as much as I can possibly, say, this is where
Mm.
this comes from. This is not mine, but I use this extensively. And I really think honoring the work that others have done before us is super important. And as I said, yeah, having that also that respect for ourselves, and do we treat what's coming through us with respect, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, right out the gate, yes, all of us. I think that's a really great place to start. I mean, when we coming to the path as healers, the place that we start healing first is the self. So when it comes to restoring respect and dignity to our work, it's got to start with us. Do we respect the work that we do? I look at a lot of practitioners, and I'm seeing the same thing that you're seeing, where it's um, that lack of respect, and it comes from a place of, it's not intentional disrespect to the craft, it's ignorance of what respect looks like in the craft. And there, to that, what you were saying, that do we understand where the craft has come from? Do we understand its lineage, its origins? Who came up with that work in the first place? Do we know that? Can we name that? um, and can we pay like a homage to that? Can we honor that? And for a lot of practitioners, um, they've done a weekend course, or they've grabbed a book off a shelf and they've taught themselves. And self-teaching, I'm a big advocate for it. I'm self-taught in a lot of the work that I've done.
yeah.
But I also know that there's the downfall that comes to that. Like, you got to go way back. You can't just crack open one book and be like, cool, I'm going to go and do tarot now, or I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
Reiki. You got to know the craft. And that takes years of practice in some instances. It takes a lot of work that
Absolutely.
that goes into that. Um, yeah, I think that is the place where we start to restore the respect and the dignities with the practitioner, the self, um,
Yeah.
and then into the craft. I think that was so beautifully put. Yes, this is
You
the
know,
conversation that we're here to have.
I was an English teacher for like 30, 35 years. And one of the things I taught was research skills and, the importance of not plagiarizing and giving credit to your sources. So to me, that's just normal. Like, of course you
Mm,
do that, right? Of course
yes.
you give credit to your sources. And then, oh, not everybody thinks that way. Well, and especially these days, we're getting bombarded by information and there's
Mm,
so much available and it's hard to know sometimes. It's just sometimes hard to know where it comes from. But I think,
yeah.
yeah, doing your due diligence to dig a bit, and not just also accept whatever's just presented to you willy-nilly as something that's of the light, that's in alignment. That's a whole other topic, right? Using
Yeah.
discernment to make sure, uh, you know, the, and the other thing I was thinking about, like regarding, respecting things, it, taking the example of Reiki,
Mm,
uh, I I was initiated into Reiki by my amazing, amazing Reiki master, who she died several years ago. But I'm so grateful to her because she was very traditional in her approach, and very much she was very woo-woo. I will say this. In her normal sessions in life, she was like very kind of she was quite ungrounded. But when it came to teaching Reiki, oh no, it was like, you know, you have to prepare before your first attunement, then you're going to have your 21-day, detox, and then you're going to do
mm,
this practice all the time. And she would tell us, you'll see people offering Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 together in one day or one weekend. She goes, that's absolutely awful and like
mm,
done online or, all these kinds of things. And the other thing I remember very clearly was when when I did Reiki too, and we learned the symbols. Um, she she was like, these symbols, she said, they're powerful, but so many people have started, and this was like 20 years ago. She said, so many people have started just sharing them. They're meant to be secret. They're meant
Hmm.
to be kept and to be, only brought out when you, and not just shared with anybody. It's only supposed to be those who have been attuned to this level of Reiki. Um,
Yes.
and now you see it on jewelry, you see it everywhere. And I think it's
Hmm.
really tampered with the energy of those symbols. I actually don't use those symbols. I don't practice Reiki as part of what I do anymore. It was really more of a way for my channels to be opened and all of that. I always knew it wasn't my path, but but of course I know those symbols, and I'm very a little cautious with them now because they've been exposed to all sorts of things. So
Hmm.
honoring those types of things like sacred transmissions that are meant to be shared only with those who are initiated into something, only with those who have studied and practiced, not just with the general public, right?
Yes.
That could actually be dangerous.
100%. 100%. And I think that's where um, ignorance is scary inside spirituality and spiritual practices. Um, I mean, I've read people like James Andretti and of course Carlos Castaneda and their stories and the type of training that they go through. Um, I mean, their masters aren't there to fuck around and find out. They're going to take you through the process. And
Hmm.
here we have 20 years ago, to your Reiki master's point, people going for a 1 day. I know that I haven't studied in Reiki. I understand energetic healing, but I know from common sense to shove Reiki 1 and 2 into a single day, you must be insane. Like that the body is not capable of holding that. Like no human should
No,
hold that much knowledge, information, history. Um, yeah, and the damage to the symbols. I mean, that every Etsy store has got it. And that's kind of leaning into that subject of pseudo spiritual trends and that dilution of spirituality and spiritual symbolism.
yeah,
And the average person in the street doesn't know. They don't know that what it actually means. What power you're actually wearing around your neck. And then people are like, why
yeah,
are all these weird things happening? Like, what is this and what is that? What
yeah.
symbols are you carrying? What symbols have you got etched into your body as tattoos? There was
I
the
was
craze
just
of the
thinking about
90s. Everyone
tattoos.
got the Chinese wording. It's like, does it really mean water? Maybe it means, rice or something. Like, do you know what the symbol is on your body? And what power that symbol carries? Yeah, that's the important part. It is dangerous. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why these conversations are important to bring that awareness of like, hey, we can't just slap whatever symbols we want onto anything that we want. We've got to understand what they mean and what they're for. And yeah, they are supposed to be kept secret. And it's not because we want to gatekeep the realm of Reiki and like nobody's allowed in, like it's a secret club. It's because it pays honor to what that craft represents and the symbols behind that craft and the power
Yeah.
behind those symbols. And
Yes.
yeah, I'd imagine that there's a lot of dilution in the realm of Reiki. I mean, I know a lot of Reiki practitioners, because
Hmm.
everybody that you can go do it over a weekend now. It's madness. It really is. Um,
And all the different types of Reiki now that
mm,
exist, that some of them just
mhm.
sound ridiculous. Dolphin Reiki or whatever.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Magic dolphin Reiki. Like what?
It is. It's pure dilution. Um, I mean, yoga is another great example of that dilution.
Hmm.
I mean, yoga is one of the things that I've gone and done formal training in. And thank goodness I did. I mean, I've had a yoga practice for many years, but my practice was just physical because I didn't understand there's an entire philosophy behind the system. And I mean, I've delved in the world of spirituality since I was 14, but I'd never fully delved into yoga and what I was
Mm,
doing there until I did my teacher training. And I was like, man, there's this whole world here. Like, no
yes.
wonder I had the experiences that I did on my mat. My entire practice made a whole lot more sense now. And I started to see the big harm in the yoga industry. I mean, I've gone to a yoga class where I've overheard my yoga teacher say, I finally signed up for my 200 like teacher training. She was a fitness instructor teaching a yoga class. That's dangerous
That
because they
is
don't fully
dangerous.
understand the ramifications of what a practice of yoga can look like. You take someone
Yes.
into a back bend with a full heart opener and they don't know what's going to happen. It's you're asking for problems.
Yes. Yoga is a really interesting one, and I'm glad you brought it up because, well, I, as we're talking, I'm realizing how really fortunate I've been to have studied these different things with amazing teachers. I've been, that they just came into my path. And so I started studying yoga actually in high school when I was 14. They gave that as an option. I'm like, oh, I'm so in for,
Oh,
for phys ed, for gym class. They gave us the option to do yoga instead of, volleyball. I was like, oh, I am so doing the yoga. And the teacher wasn't a true yoga teacher, which was fine. But then later, as an adult, when I studied yoga, it was with real yoginis, true
mm-hmm.
yoginis who did this as their way of life and who approached it as a spiritual practice first and foremost, and would always say the the most important thing you can do in yoga is to breathe. Like
Yep.
it starts with the breath. It's all about the breath. The other stuff is just extras, but the breath is where everything, if you could do nothing else, just breathe. And
Yes.
with I had a boyfriend once who he was quite overweight. Uh but because I was doing yoga uh at the time, he decided to sign up for a yoga class. So because it was like in his neighborhood. And he went, now this guy was like about, easily 300 pounds, possibly more, and also very tall, very, very tall.
Mm.
Um, in his first class, the teacher says, okay, now everybody go and do a headstand
Good grief. No,
or
like
a
right there to
shoulder
no.
stand, I think it was a shoulder stand. And he
That's
was like,
all.
and, and he said, I don't think I should do this. He's like, I think this would be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher wasn't listening to him. They're like, no, 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 you can do it. It's like part of the sequence. You have to do it. And he was like, no, I'm not going to do it because I think I might break my neck and die.
Yeah, yeah.
And when he told me this, I who had had a lot more experience doing yoga, I said, you need to get your money back, stop going to those classes because that
Mm.
place is dangerous. That
Yes.
place is dangerous. And they were supposedly like a real yoga center, like a real one,
Mm-hmm.
but I would beg to differ. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, because the practice of ahimsa, be non-harming, it's like right there in your ethics
Exactly.
of being a yoga
Oh,
teacher. Oh,
yes. It's
mm-hmm.
dangerous. It's dangerous. Yeah. And I was
Um,
also thinking about what you were saying about tattoos and so on. And I wanted to offer an insight that's not mine. This was an insight that one of my former spiritual teachers said, a couple of my teachers actually, more than one, was that, well, for one thing, with the feng shui training I did, you don't tattoo. Like you shouldn't tattoo your skin because what it does is it puts holes in your chi, and it allows for the chi to be moving around too much. So that's one thing. But also, what someone else said was that when you tattoo a symbol on your body, everything has its positive qualities and its negative qualities. So I'm a Scorpio. If I tattooed a scorpion on me, I would then be carrying that energy
Mm.
in me, in my energy body, imprinted on me, and both the positive and the negative side of Scorpio. I do not want to embody the negative side of Scorpio because it can be pretty awful. That vindictive, we all know, Scorpios, you don't mess with us. We don't play. I like to be the Phoenix type of Scorpio, the evolved type of Scorpio, but the symbol itself contains all aspects of it. All
Yes.
aspects of it. I always say, like, I feel like the only symbol that's really I mean, I don't have tattoos, and if people like tattoos, okay, but to be conscious of it, the only one I would ever accept to have on me would be a yin yang
Mm.
symbol
Yes.
because it's balance
It's
and
all
duality,
balance.
which is just part of who we are and what we are.
That's
It is the embodiment of everything, right? And we are the embodiment of it. So to me, that like, oh, okay, I could have that, but anything else? Nope, nope.
yep. I've had that conversation about tattoos before, where that's been raised to me that if you're putting something on your body, you're going to embody the traits of that. My husband and I actually have that conversation a couple of times. He's got a lion tattooed on his shoulder, and like he jokes about embodying both aspects of the lion. He'll get up and be ferocious and get shit done, and then he'll be lazy as hell for the next 25 hours. So
I like
and
that
like
actually. I really like that.
so and then like you've got to really think about before you put something on your body, think about what it is that you're doing and the implications of that. And because I've had that conversation with someone, I mean the two tattoos that I've got, because I'm a baby with pain, I don't do well. There's very specific meaning, and I understand what it is that I'm carrying there. And oddly,
Mhm.
mine is actually the symbol for Sagittarius. Sagittarius is
Oh,
my sign,
oh,
and I'm well
happy
aware
birthday.
of the negative aspects of the Sagittarian. And I'm like, we're going to integrate that. We're going to integrate that nonsense.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, because you did it with consciousness, with intention, and
Hmm.
that makes all the difference. That makes
It
all the
does.
di Not just like, oh, it looked cool, so
Yeah.
I put it there. Like, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I love the understanding of, and to me that makes sense, of poking holes in the chi. Because I mean chi obviously from yoga, from Buddhist, or the different philosophies I've studied, they talk about that a lot. And I've never considered the aspect of making holes in chi, and
Mm,
actually causing disruption to that. What's that
mhm.
implication of it? Um,
Yep.
yeah, there's maybe some more integrating with my tattoos that I need to do.
Ooh, there's an invitation.
Yeah. Let's chat a bit more about pseudo spiritual trends and the aesthetic side of spirituality. So we see this a lot in social media, Instagram. Everything is shiny, it's sparkly. Everyone's there in their meditation and their peak yoga poses. Um, and for me, I look at it and I'm just like, wow, that all just smells like nonsense. Let's chat about that, because I think it really does shape public expectations around spirituality and spiritual practices and what they're supposed to be. Let's dig into that one a bit.
Ooh, I think this is great. It's it's such a kind of insidious thing, isn't it? The
Mm,
way it can tap into and trigger and feed off of everyone's insecurities.
yeah,
Uh, and not just women, although women, because of the pressure for women to look a certain way, although men have that as well, of
yeah,
course. Um, but women definitely have it. So if they don't have the perfect yoga body and have like those goddessy clothes and, the right kind of jewelry. They have to be wearing, some kind of headband with a crystal in the middle and,
Mm-hmm.
and have like the look that,
Yes.
you know, I used to see a lot of that in when I was still living in New York. I would go to these yoga raves,
Mm.
and there would be, which were great. It was like a yoga dance. It was like get your dance on, or it was great. Like you would just go
Oh,
to this
yeah.
yoga studio and like just put on whatever was comfortable and just dance. Half the time you have your eyes closed, but there would
That
always
sounds
be
awesome.
a certain kind of clique of these beautiful people who
Yes.
were all pretending to be like natural and casual, but it was so studied. And they
Mm.
were all like taking selfies and posting, and it was all so manufactured and fake. Whereas like people like me were just going and just dancing and sweating and not giving a rat's ass what we look like,
Yeah.
because
You're
you
just there
weren't
for the
supposed
process,
to.
man.
The whole point was to be free from that and not
Yes.
care about like it's not like going to a club where you have to get dressed up and people are looking at you and judging you. But it's such a primal thing, isn't it? How we're we we're judged by how we look. So
Mm-hmm.
having this kind of, as you were saying, like pseudo spirituality um uh thing happening all the time with the way we're you're supposed to look a certain way, you're supposed to have a certain lifestyle, and it's all manufactured, it's fake, and you wonder like what is this person really doing in their real life. Half the time you find out when you dig that their lives are a disaster,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
a complete and total disaster, and it's all about image, and it's fake and it's dangerous, and it
Mm.
contributes to the lack of respect for spirituality. um I don't know, do you remember, it was about how maybe 15 years ago, there was this fabulous video on YouTube called, it was like there was a whole series of them, like it was shit blah 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 say. So they
Mm-hmm.
had shit spiritual people say, and it
Yeah.
showed like these like, you know, oh, see your aura, and oh, let's pull a card. Oh, Saint Germain. Oh, and it was hilarious, and it was so dead on accurate. And in the group I was in, we would just watch it over and over again. And start, they're like, I feel seen, And I think it's really good when we can identify this type of stuff and laugh about it. And I think that's kind of, I really am a big believer in laughter
Mm-hmm.
and humor as a way to cut through all the BS and to get to
Yeah.
the heart of things. Because if you could just get to that and laugh at it, all the artifice and the fakeness just kind of, I think, dissipates.
It
If you could
does.
just like see through the BS. But isn't it hard now, though, these days where so much of our world is manufactured?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the pressure to feel like you have to fit into the manufactured look as well, I think is also the hard part.
Yeah,
And that's where I see so many practitioners feeling that conflict of, oh, this is how the world's telling me to show up, but I don't want to show up like that. It doesn't feel right. It feels icky. And that's for a lot of them, they're
yeah,
just floundering in the water, feeling lost of like, well, how am I supposed to show up? Um,
yes.
when I read tarot professionally, I worked out of a crystal store in Johannesburg in South Africa, and they were the girls that worked in the store would promote me all the time because I'd read for them. They knew what I could do and how I worked. And they loved my work. They raved about me constantly. People, they were like, you gotta go and see Tam. Life's giving you hassles. You've got to have a reading with Tam. And people would meet me. And they were kind of like take a second, and they'd be like, you look so normal. You weren't what I was
Mm,
expecting. And I'd be like, well, what were you expecting? I mean, I dress like a regular, normal human being. Like, what do were you expecting the crystal ball, like the nails, the headband, the works? And they were like, yeah, actually, because of the way they spoke about you. And it's that misrepresentation of what a medicine person looks like. They look like you and me. And we're regular
exactly.
people. We're
Exactly.
we all get up and take a smelly poop every morning. We're no different to anyone else.
Someone say that to me some years ago in Seville. She
Mhm.
looked at me. She said, because I've been like a nomad for many years, so I've lived in a lot of different places. And she said, well, you don't look like a shaman. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? She's like,
Yeah.
well, I've met shamans before, and they look a certain way. You don't look like a shaman. I'm like, okay. It's a Saturday afternoon. I'm hanging out in Seville with my friends. Like, what was I supposed to
Yeah.
do? Put on my feathers and bring a drum? Like,
Come out in full regalia, man. This is like you got to play the role the whole time. There's no time off for us.
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And it stemmed from that image that's portrayed of, this is what we look like and this is how we work.
Yeah.
Um and that causes that sad conflict for a lot of the new practitioners, because they're
Mm.
following the trends. And like
Hmm.
there's nothing trendy about us. Our
No.
work is
And
actually
that
incredibly hard. Like there's a lot of depth to our work. Like there's no trends here.
it's not a trend, and there isn't a specific diet you're supposed to follow. Like, people be like, well, you're not vegan? I'm like, no. You know, I mean, it's fine if you want to be, but no,
Yeah.
I'm not. Most shamans aren't actually because we're
Yep.
animists.
Hmm.
So it's a very different worldview. And it's like, well, you don't have to be that, all these made up requirements that have no bearing in what the actual practice is about or the traditions of it, it blows my mind. Like, oh, if you're this, you must be this, right? If you're this, which is different from having like a set of actual requirements or standards. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But these are just manufactured artificial standards, and it's so damaging to the self-esteem for people who are maybe especially starting out or who are younger and haven't
Mm.
really gotten comfortable with who they are. The older we get, the more and more comfortable we are with who we are. But I
Yes.
mean, I'm not going to lie. There are times that I hesitate to make a video or something because I'm like, oh, I don't look very good today, or um, I don't know if I'm going to come across the way I want. And then I think I'm going to stop it. That's nonsense. But it's difficult to not be affected
Mm.
by all of this expectation that society has about how things are supposed to appear. And it really is just another version of keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes.
That's what it is. And that's been
Mm.
happening since time immemorial. Oh, the neighbors have a new whatever. We have to keep up. So it's the same thing in the spiritual world. Like, oh, so and so's got this new, crystal bowl. I don't have one. I should get one. I'm not spiritual enough if I don't have this crystal bowl. What? You don't have this? No. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you put it so perfectly. I'm not spiritual enough if I don't have this. And like the tools don't define the work that you do. You know, they're just there as tools. And whether you have tools or not, if you don't have a candle to light at your ceremony, you don't have a candle to light at your ceremony. The
It's
ancestors aren't going to come out of the clouds and be like, "Where's my candle?" You know, they're not going to shout at you.
exactly.
And they're going to be like,
I have
"Work
a
with what you have."
confession.
Hmm.
It's kind of me being a little vulnerable, but because of, being a nomad and everything, right? I
Hmm.
just travel with two suitcases. So I'm a feng shui practitioner without a home.
Yep.
That's interesting. And I
Yep.
don't have a drum. So I'm a shaman without a drum and a feng shui practitioner without a home. And
Yep.
it took me several years to be able to be okay with that. It was a
Yes.
process because there was this pressure I put on myself, really, that, oh, I should have, I am not a real shaman unless I have a. But I remember once during a session, I started to like beat on my stomach and on my leg, just
Hmm.
spontaneously. And I suddenly was like, the drum is within me. I
Oof.
am the drum. I
Yes.
am the drum. I don't need a drum. Don't need
That's
one. And I don't need to have my own home to be able to help people with theirs.
That is gorgeous. I love the power in your words right there. I am the drum. Like we
I
are.
am.
We're the instrument in the work that we're doing. I mean, I tarot was my main craft for many years. And I would say about 5 years in, I was pretty comfortable with just reading people that for most
Mm,
of the time, the cards were just on the table for their benefit more than mine. I'm just like, cool, I'm pulling cards, but really, I'm just reading
yep,
you. Um,
yep,
and it's
same.
just external things that assist. They're helpful if you have it, but if you don't, you've still got that medicine in you that hasn't gone anywhere. And that's why we can't fit into aesthetics. I did the nomad life for a while as well, where I didn't have a home and I also lived out of 1.5 suitcases. I did have my cards with me. In fact, I had more crystals and cards and books than I did clothes. it's my, is my confession. I don't have a problem, I swear. Um, but yeah, it's like figuring out how to uh-huh. The bare essentials.
Yep.
But I mean, if
The
we
incense,
look
the
at our
smudge, the crystals, and the
that, yep,
cards.
yep, that's it. That's it. We don't need anything else. And
Yep.
I mean, if we look back in indigenous cultures that been doing this for centuries, they traveled with very little. They
Mm,
needed very little. Um, I think it's a lot of it is the consumer boost after World War II. There was a massive boost of like we got to boost the
yeah.
economy, we got to let's give people something to do, so let's get them to buy some things. There's a really great documentary on YouTube called A Century of Self that actually dives into that really well. So with this huge rise of consumerism, and obviously the dilution of spirituality and spiritual practices has been going for centuries, through colonization, repression from the church, forced conversions. I mean, I've spoken to indigenous people where their ancestors had their culture literally beaten out of them.
Mm,
So for a lot of people now to pick up their culture and their practices, they've now got fear laid into that. And I think in the realm of spirituality and spiritual practices, being a practitioner and being a medicine person, being a healer, I think we feel a lot of that history as well
mm,
of, that oppression from the church and like what you do is nonsense and it's wrong and it's evil. Hey, some countries it was against the law. I believe in
yes.
the US and some states it's illegal to actually charge for a tarot reading. And I was like, man, this is
Really?
2025. Yeah.
Wow.
Out of the states or country, I think there's five states where it's actually illegal to do. And I mean, like that's my profession. I'm like, man, I could go to jail if I were like charge people to read cards. Like, no, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And again, there's the world creating this weird inner conflict for us, where it's like you can do your work, but you can't do your work.
Mm.
When I look at South Africa when we came out of apartheid in 1994, and they said, okay, everyone's got religious freedom, you can practice what you want. And 5 years later, the police are now touring the high school saying, if you're going to practice witchcraft, it's the same as Satanism, and you're going to get caught up in drugs and crime. And I'm like, I'd already cracked open like a bunch of spiritual books and witchcraft books, and I was like, hey, you're all talking nonsense. But you're like, cool, here's your religious freedom, but we're still going to make you scared to have those practices. So you've got
Mm.
this noise coming from the pseudo aesthetic side saying you need to look like this, you need to function like this, you need to have these tools. And if you don't, are you really spiritual enough? And then you got the other side saying you can have your practices, but they're probably going to, send you to the deep dark recesses of hell, or, we might just burn you at the stake for what it is that you're doing. So we've got
Hmm.
all this external noise coming into the equation as well. And I think that's pushed a lot of the dilution that we're seeing. A lot of that I think we're hiding behind the pseudo spiritual aesthetic because it's safe.
Uh, I think
Mm,
that's a very good way of putting it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
that
it's
one
sort
that
of
one kind of just popped up.
sanitized.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's so
yeah, yeah.
sanitized. It's
Good way to
it's
put
like,
it.
right? It's like the television commercial version of life or of
Yes,
spirituality.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
That
yeah.
like that movie with Jim Carrey, where
Right.
he
I was just
doesn't
thinking of
realize
that.
he's
Truman
living an
Show.
entire yeah, yeah,
Mm.
the Truman Show. There we go. Yeah, yeah. It's we've got to fit into this mold, and if we don't,
Mhm.
like you're weird, man. We don't want to know anything about you. But the weird ones are probably the real people. I think those are the ones that you want to
Mhm.
go to for, to have your chakras realigned and let's work in your energy field. Because people don't understand what that work actually entails, like what goes into that. Um, and this is where, um, chatting about why elders and lineage, and why the work that we do within our communities, it has to be honored, and it still has to remain essential. We need to know why we do the work that we do and where it's coming from, and
Mm.
both sides of the work that we do. If you're working in someone's energy field and you're just coming from the space of like love and light and doing good in the world, you could be inadvertently causing harm for yourself because you don't know what that person's energy entails. You're just like, everything is light and shiny, and this person could be
Mm.
coming with some heavy shadow stuff, and that falls onto you because you don't know how to process it properly. Because that's
Yeah.
that part of the ignorant side of the work that's coming in here because of the dilution,
And
because of that sanitization, you know.
and
Mm.
that makes me think of one of the things that for me is a foundational piece of my work, and I think it should be of all spiritual work, which is um, keeping your energy body clean and clear and protected.
Mm.
Learning
Yes.
how, I do this workshop. I have this workshop called Personal Power and Spiritual Protection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I think it's foundational and it teaches you, that this should be part of your daily life. Once you start opening I mean, everybody is subject to some kind of psychic attack or spiritual attack of some way. And most people don't even realize that they're walking around, with attachments on them, And one of the things that I teach all of my clients and students is part of just, daily life is a simple routines that you could do and to make them just an automatic part of your day. Get up, make sure you're clear, put on your armor, and then go out into the world. And pay attention to if somebody's feeling a little off, stay away, or it's really about being in your personal power is
Mm.
vital. And this is something what my one of my former teachers, really hammered into us. You have to be in your personal power. That means being aware of your thoughts, right?
Yes.
Being aware
Yes.
of stalking yourself and knowing if you're being, led down an emotional path and being manipulated, and also being
Yes.
aware of the energies around you. Are you picking up anything? Um, or then it brings me to the other thing of like all of these different modalities that are out there.
Mm.
And there are some that are not aligned.
Yeah.
I won't name names, but and it's really, I think, part of our due diligence to not just jump on every bandwagon of things that come through. I saw a lot of this when I first moved to Barcelona about 11 years ago. I moved to Barcelona and I was there for about a year. And there's a very, at the time, especially, there was a big awakening, spiritual awakening here in Spain. And so many people in Barcelona were uh, moving away from Catholicism and traditional religion, and because they wanted to embrace something new,
Mm.
and leave the past and the pain of the Franco years and all that behind them. So they were really excited about new types of spirituality. So you had all these like different healers and modalities and people going to these meetings and getting all kinds of attunements and transmissions. And one of my friends, she went to one of those meetings just out of sort of obligation to, support a friend of hers who was giving the class. And she came back with a nice little attachment that suddenly affected her mood.
Oh,
And she
wow.
said, "Can you scan me, please?" And I scanned her and I said, "Oh, this is coming from that modality. There was an implant in it." And so I removed it from her and her mood like returned back to normal because she had suddenly become like really irritable and angry and depressed. It just boop, went like that. And and she was smart enough to realize, she realized, oh, I shouldn't have gone to that meeting. I shouldn't have gone
Yeah.
to that. She goes, I didn't want to go. She goes, I really wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it. And I should have listened to that. So, and there were a lot of people coming and teaching, and so much of it was I was like, who are these people teaching it? And I would look at the description. I'm like, this isn't someone who should be teaching anything.
Mm.
This is, yeah, not, I'm not, no disrespect really, but if you're not experienced,
Mm.
if you're a newbie yourself,
Yes.
unless you're some kind of, very unique person who is on a fast track to, mastery, which could happen, you
Mhm.
shouldn't be going out spreading this stuff and teaching people if you haven't mastered it yourself,
Yes. Yes.
you know?
Absolutely. And I think that's where I think a lot of people look to spirituality as um, a career opportunity, as
Mm,
that looks like a fun career to have. Being a yoga teacher sounds amazing, or having a Reiki practice sounds wonderful, or I want to be a TikTok tarot reader, or I want to go and host retreats in Bali. And they're coming from the glamorized version of the work that
yes,
we do, not from the grounded place of the immense responsibility that comes with the work that we do.
exactly.
Um, I mean, I was 25 years in on like walking my path, doing my work, that I actually stopped and worked with a therapist to unpack the full 20 years that I'd done of professional reading for other people. I mean, I've got my skills and my, the cleansings and the whole thing, but I'd never actually stopped to fully unpack the weight of the responsibility of people's
Hmm.
lives that I was working with. That people were coming to me with big things, death, divorce,
Yes.
business decisions, big stuff. And I carried it all in my stride. I never delved into the realm of pretending that I could do something that I couldn't. There I had respect and honor for my craft, but I never stopped to think about the immensity of the responsibility until
Mm,
2019, where I was pretty burnt out with reading and I was like, I want to retire. Like, I don't want to pull cards for anybody ever again. Like, I'm done. And I was like, and then when I sat with my therapist, I was like, oh, this is why I wanted to retire. Is it that heaviness? Like there's a lot that comes with our work. There's a massive, massive responsibility. And that responsibility is it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's energetic. You're working across all of these bodies. And people don't realize that you can go for a massage, and that massage can do something on the energetic body that now opens something up. It releases an old thing, and that now hits into the emotional side. Or you go for a workshop, and like in the instance of your friend, where this person who's teaching something who shouldn't be teaching that in the first place has now inadvertently implanted something here, and they've caused harm, and that
Yeah.
person probably doesn't even know that they're doing that's
No.
even possible. They may not even know the possibility of something like that. um
Mm.
and that's really where the harm comes into the side of things. Is there's this whole side of our work that people are just like, we're going to ignore that, and we're going to pretend like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And that's scary. That's very scary. That's the people need to read books like, The Flying Witches of Veracruz, and, go read the people who have been there in the spiritual realms and dealt with the big stuff. This is not sunshine and daisies. We're not selling
I,
you unicorns.
you know, there's been such an upsurge of retreats, spiritual retreats in recent
Mm,
years. Everybody's
mhm.
doing retreats.
Yep.
And I'm thinking like, okay, you could have a certain set of skills or whatever, but when people go on a retreat, they're often really opening themselves up and making themselves very vulnerable.
Yep.
So they have to be really certain that the facilitators of the retreats are equipped to handle the fallout from that, whatever comes up.
Mm,
I mean,
mhm.
and a, kind of another angle from that is the whole ayahuasca thing.
Ooh, yes. Yeah, Mama
That's,
Aya. Mm,
I mean, people offering ayahuasca retreats here and there, like it's like they're getting, their nails done or whatever. Like
yeah.
what are you doing?
Come have a spa
What do
day.
you do? Yeah, yeah. It's like,
Come have a spa
no.
day with Mama Aya. She's gonna steamroll you. She will steamroll you. Like, I'm nervous to go and work with ayahuasca because I know and honor and respect her medicine. Like, you don't just, go to the forest and drink some juju soup. You,
And just
again,
hang
like,
out. Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, no. And so real harm can be done
Mm,
to people, real
yeah.
harm if those who are supposed to be holding the space for them are not trained or knowledgeable or experienced enough in what to do when someone
Mm,
is going through something. I had a very strange experience when I was in my feng shui training program. We had like one retreat per year, and it was up in the mountains and everything. And I, all of a sudden, out of the blue, woke up this one day um, in a state of absolute despair. It was the last day, the day we were going home, and it didn't feel like mine. And this is when I was still kind of, I won't say new on the spiritual path because I've always been on the spiritual path, but new to formal spiritual training and all of that.
yeah.
So all of the prayers we were doing and chanting and everything was like opening me up and opening me up, and we did a lot of Buddhist and Bun um, type work, and plus we were in this place that was used as a retreat center. It was a Buddhist retreat center, and so I spent that day uncontrollably sobbing.
Mm,
I couldn't stop sobbing, and a couple of my teachers were concerned. They were like, "Are you okay?" And but in my opinion, like there should have been some kind of an intervention. I should have been
yes.
taken to and worked on, because
Mm,
they had
yes.
the skills to do that.
Mm,
I was just kind of like left to sort it out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very irresponsible.
Mm.
Thankfully, I somehow managed to get myself back together. And I know that I picked up something that was because I was more open
Mm.
from all of the work we were doing, the spiritual work, the prayers, the chants, it opened me up. And then something that had been like lingering in that place from someone else like jumped into me, right? Some trauma or whatever. Because I was just like, why? This doesn't even feel like me. This feels like it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with me. Um, so yeah, there's just it's so important to be responsible when doing this work and to treat it with the respect, as we've been talking about, that it
Mm.
not just deserves but demands.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that I think demands is definitely the appropriate word to use there. Because it's powerful medicine that we're doing. I mean, can you imagine going to a modern Western doctor, and he's like, "Cool, we're gonna sprinkle you in rainbow dust, and here's your sparkles, and we're gonna make you feel better this way." You'd be like, "The hell is wrong with you? Give me the proper medicine. Be professional." And that lack
Yeah.
of professionalism is there, and it comes from the ignorance, the idea that we have to conform to certain ways, we have to work in a certain way. um, and like we're individual as medicine people, we all carry individual medicine. It comes from the path that we walk is a lot of our medicine that we give. And I was reading an article about a couple of weeks back about a woman who went to do her yoga teacher training over in India. She did the intensive. I highly advise people against doing the intensive teacher trainings. Like you cannot process that much, all of that in 2 3 weeks. Like that's not healthy. 9 months is what I did for mine, and oh man, am I
Mm,
grateful I did. So she went for the
mm,
intensive, and they did um, a somatic exercise, and it released a childhood trauma for her, and she pretty much came back from the teacher training unfunctional. She couldn't function in everyday life. She couldn't look after
mm,
herself. She couldn't work a job. She couldn't get out of bed some days. Couldn't feed herself properly. And she went from being a normal, functioning, healthy person to a mess. She couldn't function now. And so she sued them, for damages. And it's kind of like where does the responsibility sit? Definitely on the teacher to deal with that and help with that integration process of what your student is dealing with. And also the onus is
mm.
then on her to have researched the place. Do they know what they do? Are they credible? And don't just look at the reviews that say, "Oh, that was an amazing experience. Oh, I felt so relaxed. Oh, I felt so calm." Because yeah, medicine's going to make you feel those things. But look at the reviews where it's like, "Oh, this person cracked me open, but they made me feel safe while doing
Mm.
so. This person was competent in
Right.
what they did." I think the safety aspect is probably the biggest part of it. Holding, we all talk about safe space. We like to use the word safe space. It's one of those buzzwords, but how
Yeah.
many are actually truly holding safe space? Like, is your space
Mm,
grounded? Is it solid? Is it
mm.
stable? Can anybody walk into your door with whatever experience they've got, throw it at you, and can you maintain? Can you stand stable in that and process that and help that person with that? And if you
Yeah.
can't, go train. Go train how to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't
Definitely.
promote yourself and be like, "Cool, I can do this," because it's so
Right.
damaging. It's so
Yeah.
harmful. Mm.
And another thing that could be very damaging, it occurred to me to mention this, is that so many people who have spiritual gifts don't understand that they need the person's permission
Mm.
to enter into their energy field.
Yes.
I can't tell you. I used to go to this spiritual center in New York all the time for different talks and events and things. It was fun. And I'll never forget, this woman just came up to me, very ungrounded, totally ungrounded. One of these, "Oh, I see your aura," type people.
Oh, yes.
She comes up to me
Mhm.
out of the blue, unsolicited, and starts saying, "Oh, oh, I see around you, there's this, and there's a message. And I just said, excuse me, I did not give you permission to look into my energy field.
Yes.
Back off. You need to back off.
Yeah.
You don't have my permission. You
Yes.
should not be going up and reading people without their permission. It's
Nope.
wrong. And
Mm,
there's so much of that. And it's usually coming from an extremely ungrounded place.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, it could be of course, usually it's coming from a good place wanting to help, but
Yes.
um, there's also that ego element of it because you're not putting the needs of the person first
Yes.
and foremost. You're really putting your own need to help someone and be heard and to
Yes.
show that you have these gifts. Most of the time, it's that case. You know, I I very rarely would get like a message for somebody, that I'm just chatting with, but I'll always say, wow, something just came in. If you like, I'll share it with you, you
Yes.
know. And I know because of my experience that if I'm getting a piece of information about that person for that person, that their higher self has
Yes.
allowed me to do that because I've set it up so that I have very firm boundaries and I don't violate other people's energetic and spiritual boundaries, right?
Beautiful.
Um, and it's so important.
Yes.
So
Yes.
important.
Because it's important for that person, and it's important for you as the practitioner. I mean, if we wandered around wide open reading every Tom, Dick, and Harriet out there, we would be non-functional within a week.
Yeah.
We would be a disaster. It wouldn't work.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
it's very disrespectful to another person to invade their energy like that. That is, there's so much that you're looking at and observing inside that person that is it's sacred space. You don't just arrive and be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I see you've got this stuff going on. I know for those who have those gifts in the beginning, it's hard to kind of like figure it out how to turn it on, turn it off. And
Yeah.
sometimes you'll accidentally read people. But for a lot of them, they are coming from that very ungrounded place of wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard, having that validation of their gifts and their abilities. So now we're
Yeah.
now going into probably childhood trauma is where they're operating from, where they weren't
Mm,
seen and heard as a child. And
yes.
essentially, you have that child coming to you and saying, hey, I see your aura. So, it's then having the ability to then educate them on that level of like, hey, little one, this is how we actually do these things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's invasive. It's very invasive. Consent is a informed consent is what's
Mm-hmm.
important. There's consent where it's like, hey, I'm going to do some Reiki on you. Are you cool with that? Yes, that's consent. Informed consent is I'm going to do a Reiki process on you, and it may open up some stuff. It might release some things. You might cry. You might feel a bit weird. There might be some shaking. You walk them through the different processes of what's going to come up in that session. So when it does come up, they're not lying on your table terrified of like, oh my God, what is this
Right.
process that's happening to me?
Right.
Because you've given them informed consent. They see the full picture and they can say, yes, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree to all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Not,
Mm,
I'm going to lie here and you're going to put your hands on me. Okay, cool. We've got to know the difference between the two. Consent and informed consent, they're different. And for me, back when at early ages of reading tarot for people, I didn't fully understand informed consent and understand the
mm-hmm.
difference. And that bit me on a couple of times, and also working through my own codependence. Am I helping this person because it's what I'm supposed to do? They're on my path and for a
Right.
reason, or am I just here trying to fix this person and make them feel better? Being nice as a practitioner is not the same
Yeah.
as care.
No.
Yeah.
No. Nice doesn't cut it. You
Mm-mm.
reminded me of yesterday. I was working with a client, a young girl who's neurodivergent, and I was
Mm.
giving her an exorcism because that's one of the things I am. I'm a shamanic exorcist. Um, but I already knew a lot about her background because I've known her for some time, and she's on the spectrum. She's neurodivergent. A lot of mental health issues in the family. Well, she's like really weathered a whole bunch of stuff. And so she had, before our session, voiced her concern about being scared. So I told her exactly how I do the process. And I asked her if she was comfortable with each of these parts. I said, if you get scared about, because she was really worried about getting scared of hearing bad things. So like I'll say, oh,
Mm.
you've got like this type of a demon. Normally I'd be like, oh, you've got this type of a demon. You've got seven of them, and you've got this type of demon, and you've got this kind of a spirit entity, and you've got this kind of a curse, and it's very matter of fact. Um,
Yes.
so I had said to her, all right, so I can do it so that I'm not saying these things out loud. I'm just writing them down if you like. If you and when I'm doing the clearing process that might startle you because I yell, um,
Mm.
I sound like I said, so if that the sound is going to bother you, please feel free to turn off your sound. So I walked her through it step by step, and she knew what to expect. And in the end, she ended up feeling so comfortable, so safe, and it was so lighthearted the way I did it that she actually was asking me, "Oh, can you tell me what that was? And how many?" I was like, "If you want, I'll tell you." Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to know now. So it was like a complete 180 from all the fears she had had, right?
Yes.
Because I honored her and I respected her needs and what she needed to hear, and how I could do this process in a way that was comfortable for her.
That's
And
it.
it was very interesting because having a client like that who's got these special requirements and so on can really be a great teaching experience for the practitioner, because I had to
Absolutely.
be more conscious than usual, right? I mean, I'm always
Yes.
conscious, but I had to add this other layer into what I do. And
Mm.
it wasn't that it was challenging, but it did make me kind of rise to the occasion, and I did, and I was really proud of myself, and I was really happy that she was so happy, and
Yes.
all around great experience. And that's what we want. This is what we want to be giving to our clients, is an experience that's going to change their life for the better, and
Yes.
transform their worlds, and also help us step further into our mastery, right? Every time we step up into that, right, we go further on our path, and that I think it's a win-win.
That's so beautifully put. The I've seen that consistently throughout the years, and whether I was doing energy work or reading tarot or now mentoring, there's always that I can do more, I can do better, I can always rise to a higher level of education. And um, it's not from a place of like outdoing yourself or competing with yourself of like, oh, I was like this yesterday, so I'm going to be better than I was today. It's about, like you say, meeting your clients where they are, rising to where they are, and through that you master yourself even more as a practitioner. Your clients will teach you consistently if you have
Mm.
no ego coming into your sessions and you allow that space for that openness. Your ego is a sad part of the realms in which we work, and it's a part of the big downfalls. People operating from the ego. In yoga, they say either the yogi will rise or the rasasana will rise. The rasasana is like the
Oh.
shadow aspect of the self.
Hmm.
So if you're going in to do any spiritual practice, or any kind of spiritual work with a practitioner, and they're not equipped to know what it is that they're doing, that you can actually land up stepping more into ego and more into shadow and enhancing more of that through the work that you're doing, as opposed to dismantling that. And I mean, we can look coming out of I think it was around the 60s and the 70s, you had the huge like spiritual uprising here in the US. Everyone was on the hippie bandwagon. Everyone's doing yoga, everyone's doing meditation, and the breath work, the shamanism stuff took a huge upturn as well. And these a lot of the teachers that were coming across to teach these practices were coming along with a whole lot of ego. Now we have a lot of
Mm.
sexual abuse going on. We have a lot of abuse of power going on. The way that they would talk to their students, I'm just like, you are a
Oh.
like, where is your practice? You're not living the things that you're teaching. And it's because they're coming in with the ego. That ego is just being amplified. And I think for a lot of practitioners where they don't check their egos and they're doing their work, they're working on building up the ego, not dismantling it and operating from the right space. And that's also a whole another layer of harm that you're bringing in there, because you're not going to stop and slow down enough to actually hear your clients. You're not gonna
Mm.
break down enough of your walls to, have I actually created a safe space for my client? Can I check in with where I'm at? There was a really great saying that was taught to me: check yourself before you wreck yourself and someone else.
Mm.
When you got ego in the way, all you're going to check out is your ego. And your ego is going to be like, you're amazing, babe. You're going to do some damage
That
to your clients. Yeah.
that is so
Mm.
true. It's reminding me of an experience I had with someone who, offered to do some sessions on me for free for practice. And I loved this person very much, and I wanted to support her and, in her path. So I was like, yeah, okay, great. And what it turned out to be was all about ego, nothing to
Mm.
do. I did not feel safe. I did not feel like my needs were paramount. It was all about her and what she needed. At one point, afterwards, she was like started yelling at me about something. After
Wow.
one of them, and I should never have done it again with her.
Mm.
Um, and then it was afterwards. She would always want affirmation, like she wanted to be praised. She wanted to be reassured how great she was, and it was all about who's a healer, who's a great healer here, and
Yeah.
um, nothing about like how are you, like how are you, and not like how are you in terms of so you can tell me what a great job I did, but
Yes.
how are
Are
you?
you?
What do you need? It was and it's a shame because there's real talent there and ability,
Mm.
but I did not feel safe and I would not have ever recommended this person
Mm.
to anyone for that because of that. And it
Yes.
really is, it's sad, but we can't be approaching healing from that place. We can't. It's irresponsible.
Mm.
It's irresponsible. It's the damaging. And uh, if you can't create that safe space where your client can be their most vulnerable self and share their most intimate secrets and parts of themselves with you and know that they are 100% loved and cared for in that space and that it's a sacred space, it's a sacred container, and that the person holding that space sees that, honors it, witnesses it, holds it, is it, right? Then what are we doing? Find another job, right? Find something else to
Please,
do.
please do go and find another job. We beg of you. I think you've hit that so beautifully. Of you are that space. Congruence. There's a lot to be said for congruence in a session. It's not to say that as healers and practitioners, we have to have our shit together. We're not perfect, and we're definitely not going to be like the ultimate guru living on the mountaintop who has like all knowing, and like we
We're
don't.
human.
Like we were still human. um and acknowledging the fact that you're human as a practitioner, and embracing that, like you're not here to be on show. You're not here to be a performer. You're here to do your work to the best of your abilities, but you're not on show. Like you're not stepping on a tutu and giving us a ballet. It's not the kind of art form that we're doing here. So yeah, honor the container. Hold your containers with integrity and respect. I mean, our work is centuries old, the work that we do, no matter
Mm,
what label you want to
millennia.
step onto modality. Yeah, it's thousands and thousands of years of ancestry behind our work. Um, you can't step into sessions and just and not take that with you. If you can't take that with you, yeah, go find another job. Please go find another job. Like leave the big work to the real people. Because it
Yeah.
is the market is very flooded. And it's flooded because of the misconceptions, the glamorization, the dilution, the dismantling, all of that. And that people don't realize the wholeness of what being a healer actually looks like. It's work. It's a different type of work, and it takes a very specific type of person to do that work fully. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Was it who said a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing?
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Someone's,
I know the
I
quote.
forget who it is, but
Mm.
isn't that true? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. In fact, Israel Regardie, who did a lot of the books around the Golden Dawn, so your esoteric practices,
Mm.
in one of the books she writes about, kind of the fragmented practitioners who, let me learn a little bit of this and learn a little bit of that and read a smidge out of this book, and then let me just slap it all together and have one big giant practice. Like
The
you're
buffet.
gonna be all over the place, all over the place. She's like,
Hmm.
you pick a line, pick a lane, and stay with us, and
Yeah.
master that lane. Everybody wants the
Yeah.
the next certification, and maybe if I add this modality to my belt, like no, you don't
Or
need another certification.
the
Mm,
addiction to collecting certifications. Like, what is that?
yes,
Like,
yes,
just because you have some kind of certificate from some program that you paid money for,
mm,
like, what what does that really mean? I mean, it could be
yes,
nice for certain things, and
mm,
that's great. But there are people who just collect those, and
yep.
they have them there as, oh, I'm certified in this, 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 this. It's like, great. So what does that
How do you
mean,
hold
though?
space?
Is the Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
because that's the real question. So with closing off the episode, if we can, um, I think leave the public with some kind of assistance, because I'm sure they're sitting there being like, well, how do we pick up practitioners now if there's all this dilution and pseudo nonsense going on? How do we go about picking practitioners that are safe?
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, now that's a really good question. I mean, we have to research. People have got to do some research, and that
Mm,
means reading reviews, but also I like to Google so and so, um, like sham or scam,
mm,
and sometimes it will pull up some reviews like, oh, this person said this. Now, and also taking that with a grain of salt because this is just some
yes,
disgruntled person who's, so it that our own discernment is our best friend in this.
yes.
But building discernment is also part of the spiritual path. So it's kind of, which comes first, the chicken or the egg. And there may
Yes.
unfortunately at times be some trial and error, but certainly like
Hmm.
doing your due diligence, researching the person. Um, I, or also like asking for recommendations from people and
Mm.
trust. I think that's really, I mean, I've gotten so many clients just from word of mouth. Um, people, and then if it's somebody you trust, recommend like, oh, you've got to go see this person. That's how I met my Reiki master, right? I was referred to it by somebody I know, like, you've got to go see this person. I'm like, oh, okay. Um,
Yes.
So doing that, but also learning to trust our intuition,
Mm.
learning to
100%.
trust our instincts. If something feels not quite right, or if the person is like, let's say you call to make an appointment or whatever, you get on a discovery call with someone and it just doesn't feel right, then honor that. Don't let the person sell you into something, pressure
Yes.
you into that, right? Because there's a lot of sales happening.
Mm.
And not that sales by themselves are wrong, but sales like
Yeah.
from the heart and the soul
Yes.
is a very different thing than sales that are just trying to make sales. So
That's it.
if you can get on a call with someone, if you can get that discovery call, if they offer that to get to know the person and see if it's a fit, right?
Mm.
And the practitioner should also be making sure that you're the right fit for them.
Yes. Yeah.
It goes both ways. So it's kind of like a mutual interview. So that's, I think, a really, really good way. Learning to trust your intuition, doing your research, and I don't know, what else would be good? What,
I think those are pretty much what I would have gone. That discernment is definitely a big one, and listening to that gut feel. I love what you said, the difference between sales and sales from the heart, where it's like, like this is an alignment, this is cool, and me
mhm,
just, using good old sleazy sales techniques to try and get you to be my client.
like
Um, I,
pressure.
I don't know that I could add any more value to what you've put there. I think it's got to
Yeah,
be because your higher self is going to go there and do whatever work needs to be done. So listen to your higher self. If in part of you is like something here is not right, something feels off, something feels icky, I trust that. Absolutely trust
yeah,
that. Um, and I love what you said with with people who do like discovery calls and that kind of thing. It's a dual interview. Is this client the right type of client that I want? I've had
yeah,
clients over the years where I'm like, oh, that was not a good client. Like that was not a good idea to take them on. And that
yeah,
operating from scarcity mindset as a practitioner is a dangerous thing
yeah,
in that regard. Yeah.
yeah. And we're all guilty of it at some point.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. We will walk the scarcity path.
Oh yeah. I
It's
made
a
a
scary path.
decision this year that was like, oh, Anna, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
It was coming from a desire to help,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was a mistake. Yeah, and it's like in a way like a job interview, which should be sort of a
Mm.
mutual interview too. It's very
Yes.
similar. But I guess I would also add to that in addition to researching the practitioner, to researching if it's a modality that's known, that's not like a proprietary modality,
Mm.
research that modality, look into
Yes.
it, find out its
Yeah.
origins. Does it have origins in black magic?
Mm.
Maybe you might want to find that out.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. Because
the
that is
same.
absolutely it's a realm that is very real and exists. Yeah.
Oh, it
Yep.
sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you not find any information about it anywhere? That's another maybe a red flag. Uh,
Mm. Yes.
yeah. So all
Yeah.
those
And
kinds, or
looking.
are there testimonials?
Yes. Yes. What is the experience like? What could you expect from the experience? What's the pros and the cons? The physical sensations, all of it.
Has the
Yeah.
practitioner been
Mm.
doing it for 2 years and calls themselves a master?
Yes. Yes.
Ah, and do they give themselves some kind of pretentious name and title?
Yes, 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 yes. My very first psychic that I went to go and see, and she was legitimate. She was my first ever tarot reader. And I mean, back then, I think I was 18. My mom and I would like kind of still new to, the world of spirituality and how this all worked. And in all honesty, it's because she looked the part. She had the crystals, she had the nails, she looked like she was a little bit crazy, and she was nuts, but she was good, man. She was spot on. Like
Yeah.
she looked down my timeline and she's like, listen, 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 listen. Like years later, like things that Madam I said to me
Mm,
still came to fruition. But she looked the part, she sounded the part, and she had the name to go with it as well. But if I had wandered into that fair now and I'd looked at her, I'd have been like, is she legitimate or is she just playing the part? And I probably would have missed out on a phenomenal reading because I would have dismissed her as, you just look
yeah,
like you're nuts. Yeah, so that's,
exactly.
yeah, research your practitioners. How long have they been doing it? She'd been doing it for years. I think Madam I was well 20 years into reading, so and she had that on her board, so I was like, okay, she knows what she's doing. But yeah,
Mm,
are they 2 years in and they're a master of their craft? It took me
yeah,
years to call myself a tarot master, and there's still days where I'm like,
yeah,
are,
yeah,
are you
yeah,
there, are you there? And I'm like, I'm 25 years on my path, like
yeah.
I'm still like,
People
have
have
you
called me,
mastered this?
people have called me a master, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, you should call yourself a master. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just, yeah,
Big word. It's a big label to step on oneself. Yeah. And if
it
you're happy to
is.
just willy-nilly be like, cool, I'm a master in this, I would think twice about
And
that practitioner. I would have some questions. Absolutely. Yeah.
and also one other thing I just thought to add to that is how do they package themselves, right? Is it super slick? I mean, nothing wrong with having professional looking website, it should be
Yes.
professional. It should also be, not to say that somebody with poor computer design skills or whatever can't be an amazing healer. Um,
Yes.
of course they can, and often are. Um, my computer skills are not the best. My website's not the best, but it's not the worst either. But if something is like a little too slick and perfect and Instagram ready and crafted, I mean, yes, okay, maybe the person went out and hired someone to do that and make it. And I'd love to do that someday. I'd like to a
Yes.
degree, but it's going to have to keep that very authentic energy
Realness.
to it, right? So if it all
Yes.
seems too slick and superficial in terms of their marketing and packaging, then that's not a good sign, I would say.
Yes. Yes.
Like buyer
I've
beware.
Yeah, I've questioned that. So I've got web and graphic experience. I co-owned a web and graphic design company with my ex. So I can build myself a website and I can make it look phenomenal. I mean, my website does look very professional. And I've done a bit of streamlining and updating to it. And I showed it to my husband the other day. Um, and he said something that um it looks good, but it might look too good. It might look a little bit too professional.
Mm.
Like I would question coming onto your website, and I'm like, is this why I'm not getting
Oh.
clients? Does my website look too good?
Oh.
It is. It's a thing because I think a lot of people are waking up to um, the reality that there is a lot of like really damn good marketers and people who know business incredibly well that are out there presenting themselves as, let me be your business shaman, let me bring let me help you manifest your clients. But really, they're just really good at marketing, have zero spiritual training whatsoever, don't even know what the word shaman means. And I mean, I've seen it. I've sat in one of those workshops where she waved around her incense stick and her clean, crisp white suit. And I was like, what the hell is this? What have I walked into? Like, this is horrible. I'd like the exit. Where's the end button for this meeting? And I do question that sometimes. I'm like, do I look too professional out there? And
Mm.
it is. It's
Line.
striking that balance. Yeah, it is striking that bit of that balance. So yeah, I'm gonna go and put some spelling errors on my website so I don't look like I'm
See
still
that
human, everyone.
I that I can't do with the English teacher background. I can't. I have to get the grammar and the spelling right.
Yeah, please don't go look at my website in the next couple of days then. Anna, this has been an amazing conversation. Like this is everything I was looking forward to this conversation
Oh,
being about. Like this really has been very well needed. Like we do need to talk about this stuff more often. That what does spirituality look like? What is the whole of the practice? What does safe practice look like? How do we bring back the respect and the honor? And I mean, right in the beginning, you put that so perfectly. We start with ourselves. Do you respect your
mm,
craft? Do you respect yourself as a practitioner? Because we teach people how to respect us, and if we don't
yes.
respect ourselves and our craft, we're just perpetuating those cycles of disrespect, and we're not helping to
Yep.
bring back that dignity.
Yep.
So a huge, huge gratitude for coming to hang out with me and have this
Oh,
conversation.
it's been
Yeah,
wonderful.
you were definitely the right person to have this conversation with. I thank you. Thank you for bringing your wisdom. And yeah, you do. People are right. You could call yourself a master. Like you do have a lot of
Oh,
mastery there. And you carry it in a way that is very genuine and grounded. I know that if I came to see you, your container would be like there's no holes in your container. It's safe and it's secure and it's sturdy, and that's things that other practitioners can look up to and aim for to do for themselves. So thank you.
oh, thank you. This has been, I'm so grateful to be here with you talking about this. And to have the opportunity to talk about some the stuff that's so important. So I so appreciate you and for creating this container and this space for this. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been a beautiful, beautiful episode. I hope it's shed some light on what spirituality and spiritual practices actually look like. What is safe practice for both the public and practitioners? Anna, is there if people want to reach out and work with you, where can they find you?
They can find me kind of everywhere. I'm on Facebook under Anna Pavlakis Serafine, and I've got my personal profile, but also my business page, which is Integrated Soul Healing. Um, you can also find me on Instagram at I think it's at Anna Pavlakis. Yeah. Sometimes I get confused. I also have a YouTube channel, Integrated Soul Healing, and I'm on LinkedIn. Uh, but I guess like the easiest way to get in touch with me would be through Facebook. So you shoot me a message on Facebook, and I would love to connect with anyone who wants to go further. It would be a joy and a privilege.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. We will be sharing all the links down in the video description as well, so you can find Anna quite easily. I will be back in the second quarter with a new lineup of some fantastic people to come and have some conversations with me. I have some beautiful elders lined up for the second quarter. I'm really excited, looking forward to it. So I will be dropping that information. Look out for the quarterly newsletter that will come out. It'll be having all those juicy, juicy details. So until the second quarter, yeah, stay solid and grounded and respectful in your craft. All right, see you everyone.